Joining us now. Very happy. Waz and I, obviously, Waz is featured often on the Michael Brooks Show. We co-host the show for the Bomb feed on the Count the Dings network, but he hasn't been on the Majority Report for a while, so I'm very happy to have him back. And Waz is also he is a writer for The Athletic. He co-hosts a great podcast with David Aldridge called Hoops Adjacent.
Best podcast.
Best podcast. I love that podcast. That's such a good podcast. And also you can just find, the Count the Dings network puts out a lot of content on politics, pop culture, and of course sports, and Waz is all over it. Waz, thanks so much for doing this, man. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm good. It's 9:30 in the morning on the West Coast, and this happened to be a night that I actually got some sleep. So I feel bad for getting sleep before Majority, bro. I'm usually up by 7 o'clock. Like, it's hard to get a sleep pattern in like the times that we're living in, because everything seems so, like, I don't know. So everything has been thrown off. And then, we throw this time of unrest on top of a pandemic, on top of a renegade presidency, on top of just so many things. But I'm happy to be on with you guys. Matt Leck, man. Yo, Matt, that video you posted of those cops planting bricks so that they're freaking agent provocateurs could find them. I'm from New York City. I'm used to being appalled by the cops, and that still got me. I was like, what in the hell, bruh?
Yeah. We should note police sources are saying they were just picking up debris. So, which is a thing that cops do.
Wow.
This is a video. I don't know if you have it, but basically of them placing bags of bricks on a corner.
There's a couple videos. There's a video with there's a bunch of pallets of bricks that have been showing up, and people are kind of wondering what's going on. And so people in Boston saw some cops in an alley, and they pulled the what do you call that thing? The whatever for the back cabinet, the back of the cab. I forgot all my truck terms. But looking in the back of the truck, and there's a whole bunch of bricks underneath the mat. And then there's also in Brooklyn yesterday, Matt Binder was on this. New York Police Commissioner Shea tweeted out this video of these cops finding these bricks just neatly stacked in these boxes on this corner in way South Brooklyn, like close to Coney Island. And Binder pointed out no protests are even near this area or scheduled for it. But the cops were there on the case and with video to film them picking up these. I guess the anarchists have gotten really coordinated and they've bought a bunch. Went to the crate factory or whatever you get. Package up their stuff really nice, but
it was a 60s Batman show. It's just where are the anarchists?
They're at the container store.
Coney Island.
The anarchists are at the container store getting containers for bricks.
They're reading up at the factory by the boardwalk.
There's just so much stuff happening, and I'm sorry for the noise in the background. There's my next door neighbor is redoing his place.
We don't actually hear anything. You have you have a West Coast update for us, because LA has actually had a 1 p.m. curfew.
Dude, yo. So on Monday, today's Thursday. Yeah, on Monday, when when the protests made their ways to Beverly Hills and West Hollywood. And even people who aren't from LA, haven't been here, know the significance of a neighborhood like Beverly Hills. It's internationally known as a very moneyed, affluent area of LA and of America, right? It's a symbol of American wealth. And the protests took their asses over there, And the curfew is literally one reason. It's if we see you on the streets, we issue the curfew. You know what the curfew is. We get to do whatever the fuck we want with you. Right. And so in the neighborhoods of Beverly Hills and West Hollywood, another more affluent, fancy neighborhood in LA, the police instituted a 1 p.m. curfew so that if they saw anyone walking the streets at that time in those specific neighborhoods, they could essentially, they had carte blanche. That's the point of a curfew, is to signal to everybody like, all right, if your ass ain't in the house, it's like your parents' curfew. It's literally the same thing. If your ass ain't in the house by sundown, I'm on you. I'm on you. And that's the NYPD, that's the LAPD, the police telling us, I'm on you. If I see you past a certain time, I'll do whatever it is I think is necessary to you. And so, yeah, they instituted a 1 p.m. I think it was 1:30. I don't want to get.
Oh, yeah. Well, excuse me. I didn't know. Okay. All right. Obviously, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I mean,
this is the left. Always exaggerating.
Yeah. So hysterical.
But yeah, they did that. They did that. And to be honest with you, Mike, you know, I look on the internet and see that they're protesting in Beverly Hills. I'm like, man, like, this is real. This is actually pointed. This is actually focused. You know, my man Chuck Pierce always says, people always say all these things about Occupy Wall Street. At least they were yelling at the right buildings. Right. Right. Like, at least they knew exactly who was the cause of everything. We see a lot of protests in our country. You know, not too long ago, people were mad that they had to wear masks and couldn't get haircuts at their barbershop. Right. And that's what Chuck Pierce means when he says, at least they were yelling at the right buildings. You know, these people went to Beverly Hills, man. Like, these are the people who have the biggest voices in our communities, straight up and down. You know, if the fire department gets a call that something in Beverly Hills is on fire, they're there in a second. You know, if the police think something in Beverly Hills is in danger, they're there in a second. These are our most protected citizens, and the protest took it right to their front door. And the cops said, we're going to put a curfew on them so that we can handle them how we like to handle people.
When you look at like the way just de Blasio and Carcetti, these two liberal mayors, right? And President Obama was out last night doing a stream, and you know, and he said people should vote. And I do, and to be very clear, I absolutely think, of course, people should vote. This is not some like dumb don't vote thing. Of course, you should vote. Absolutely. I want to ask a deeper question than that, because it seems to me Carcetti or Garcetti has been done things like shut down COVID testing clinics, which seems to me like absolutely a way of punishing the city. Right. De Blasio has been pathetic and servile and justified, you know, police ramming cars into crowds, but he seems legitimately scared to me. And I don't, and you know, in general, maybe it is because he's just kind of like a feckless guy, but what, you know, if we look at this whole thing as a democracy deficit, that police can go into certain places and have their way, basically, with no democratic accountability and oversight, that really this becomes just a question of whether, you know, the age-old question of America, democracy or not democracy. But then it's like blown out into this, and I don't know, it's like, I get that these mayors are looking out for, obviously, the centers of capital and indulging the cops is something that has always polled well overall. But they seem like they genuinely don't have reign on these like paramilitaries that are walking around our streets. Like, even if they wanted to, I guess is what do you think?
I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here. I'm saying this, I'm just prefacing that so people don't get alarmed, but I really think these guys are acutely aware of the fact that the cops will get you killed. The cops can get you killed. They can get you killed if you're Eric Garcetti, if they want to. If they're the people in charge of your own security, they could do the opposite if they wanted to. And I think that's the fact that they're all acutely aware of. It's that Mayor de Blasio, when he moves around with the police. When Mayor Carcetti moves around with the police. And so just think about the things that the cops are capable of doing when they're the ones policing themselves. They're the ones who have access to the information of actual crimes. And so that in order to recreate a crime, an actual crime, I know exactly how to do that because I know exactly how crimes take place. I think that's what you see from those guys. They're afraid of the police because they know the police can do harm to them in ways that are untraceable, in ways that, quite frankly, if you're a Black person, you are acutely aware of yourself. You know what the cops can do to you. They can punch you in the face and say he was put on a report. He was resisting arrest. And then when you go to court, the official document of the guy that punched you in the face says you were resisting arrest, right? That's the system. That's how it works. And those guys are very aware of how the system works. And they're very aware of the violence that these guys are capable of. That's my interpretation. And it's just an interpretation. People can, have their own feelings and thoughts about it and their own hypothesis. But there's no other way to explain it. It's no different than when guys occupy the office of the presidency and they're afraid to bust a move against the military. And it's because of what, Mike? They're like, man, these guys can make it so that something goes terrible overseas, something goes terrible at home, and they can just blame me for it.
Right.
And so you see this deference to the military apparatus. You see this, we can only talk about the military in one way because they're scared, because these people know where the bodies are buried, quote unquote. And I think that's what you're seeing here, man. Like the police business is a violence business. They carry guns. They have the authority to split your skull open, at a whim, just at their own whims. And I think even a mayor is very aware of that. And so that's why you see that level of deference.
Definitely.